In this tutorial, we'll look at how to reserve inventory quantities for FBA inbound shipments. Reserving inventory for FBA will ensure that received inventory will not be made available on various channels before they have arrived at Amazon's fulfillment center. Reserving inventory will also increase labor efficiency because received inventory will be flagged to ensure that your shipping department doesn't spend the effort stocking it on the warehouse shelf and then repacking it for your FBA inbound shipment. There are two ways to reserve quantity. The first way is to reserve when creating an FBA inbound shipment. After adding a product to the shipment, click on Reserve Quantities from the Action menu. On the grid, you can see the quantity set to ship and the inventory quantity that's currently available. Enter a reserve quantity into this box. The reserve quantity cannot exceed the quantity being shipped to FBA. Click Reserve Quantities. The inventory available quantity will then decrease to reflect the inventory reserved for FBA. Although this column on the Reserve Quantity page shows the inventory available quantity, it cannot reflect any changes that occurred after you opened the page. If you want to make sure that the quantity you are adding is currently available, enable the client setting Validate Inventory for FBA Shipment. Now, when clicking on the Reserve Quantities button, the system will check the actual availability at that moment and will return an error message if there is no availability. To view the inventory movement after quantity has been reserved, open the inventory movement history of the reserved product. The reserved quantity is noted in the grid under the movement type FBA Reserved. Once the status of the FBA inbound shipment changes to shipped, the inventory will no longer be reserved. It will not, however, become available for sale while in transit. This is because FBA inbound shipments are placed in an unsellable interim warehouse and will not become available until they are received in the Amazon fulfillment center. You can also automatically reserve quantity every time you create a shipment. To do this, open the client settings and enable the client setting Auto Reserve when adding product to FBA shipment. To release the reservation on the quantities, open the Receive Quantities page. Now select the item you want to release and click Unreserve Quantities on the Action menu. The second way to reserve inventory is to do so when creating a purchase order. After adding the product to the purchase order, enter a quantity value in the box called FBA Allocation. This will reserve that quantity of inventory for FBA and will flag those items for FBA as they are received in ReceiveBridge. To do this, open the General Options window from the menu and enable FBA Allocation. Now, when receiving the purchase order, this column will show the quantity reserved for FBA. The receiving department staff will then know not to shelve that quantity and will instead direct it to be added to the FBA shipment. For more information on reserving quantity for FBA, please visit wiki.sellercloud.com.